Maya Brooks walked through the cold metal hallways of the space station at 3 in the morning when her device beeped with a message that made her stop breathing for a second. Message said she had to report to Princess Cylindris right away. And the princess did not like waiting. Princess Cylindris was the commander of all elf forces, and everyone feared her because she was cold like ice and never smiled, and her dragon Frostfang could destroy entire fleets with just his breath. Maya had only seen the princess once during a peace treaty signing, and that was enough because the princess stood 7 feet tall, with silver skin that glowed and eyes like frozen blue diamonds, and her dragon wrapped around her like a living weapon made of starlight. Maya put on her best uniform and walked to the elf section of the station, where everything looked like it was made of crystal and light instead of normal metal, and the elf guards watched her with looks that said they thought humans were stupid children. The doors to the princess chambers opened by themselves, and Maya stepped inside a room that seemed bigger on the inside than the outside, with walls that showed actual stars like the room had no walls at all. Princess Cylindris stood at the far end looking at the stars, and Frostfang, the dragon, was wrapped around a crystal pillar watching Maya with eyes that blazed with terrible intelligence. The princess spoke without turning around, and her voice sounded like wind over ice, and she asked Maya if she knew why she was here. Maya said no and tried not to sound scared. Princess said that 3 days ago during a training simulation, Maya had ignored her orders and moved fighter ships away from where they were supposed to be. Maya remembered that moment because she had seen a chance to win the battle faster, but she had not asked permission first, and now she was in trouble. She tried to explain that she saw an opportunity and took it like humans always did. The princess turned around, and her blue eyes looked at Maya like she could see right through her, and she said that Maya had won by accident, not by planning, and if it had been a real battle against the void swarm, everyone would have died. The dragon Frostfang started glowing with dangerous energy, and the room got colder. Princess said she did not want an apology because tomorrow they were going to fight the biggest void swarm fleet anyone had ever seen in a place called the Crimson Nebula, and she needed to know if Maya would get everyone killed with her human recklessness. Maya said that human tactics had won battles that elves thought were impossible. The princess moved closer like a hunter and said that human tactics at the Battle of New Harmony had also killed 17,000 people who did not need to. Maya felt sick because she had been at New Harmony and seen all the death. The princess kept talking and said that humans fascinated her because they were so weak and died so young, but they fought like crazy people who had nothing to lose, and maybe there was something valuable in that desperation. Then the princess said Maya would serve as her advisor during the next battle and would be on her ship right next to her, and if Maya helped them win, she would admit humans were useful. But if people died because of Maya, then Maya would pay for it. Maya asked what happened if she said no. The princess smiled just a tiny bit and said that would prove humans were cowards. And she held out her hand. Maya looked at that pale hand and at the dragon, whose eyes were now interested instead of angry, and she shook the princess' hand, which felt like touching ice. The princess said they would leave at dawn and told Maya to go. Maya walked to the door, but the princess stopped her and asked her to explain how she had calculated that move in the simulation, because the princess wanted to understand how humans think when they have no time to think. Maya turned back and was surprised to see real curiosity in those frozen eyes. She said it would be her honor to explain. The elf ship, called Starlight Edge, was not like any human ship because it was alive and grown instead of built, and its hull glowed with strange light. Maya stood on the bridge, which looked more like a temple with walls made of flowing water that showed battle information, and the princess floated in a column of energy that connected her mind directly to the cheap elf officers, moved around like dancers, and they did not need to talk because they could send thoughts to each other through technology. In their brains, Frostfang occupied a crystal platform above them all, and his body kept shifting between solid and pure light. One elf officer named Leorendis said humans were too slow to help in a real battle. The princess silenced him with a hand gesture and said Maya was there to give a different way of thinking, not to give orders. Maya said she was ready and checked her equipment. The princess told the ship to jump through space, and the universe twisted, and suddenly they were in the Crimson Nebula Maya had traveled through space many times, but never like this, and she felt every impossible angle as reality bent then. They arrived and saw Health and Nebula glowed red like blood from dying stars, and filling all that space were voids swarm. Ships, thousands of them, tens of thousands the swarm ships, looked like living nightmares made of black shell and dark energy, and they moved by corrupting the space around them. Liorendis whispered that this was 3 times more than intelligence had. Predicted the princess stayed perfectly calm, and said the swarm was not gathering for an attack, but was already starting something called metamorphoses. Maya asked what that meant. The princess explained that when swarm fleets got big enough, they merged into one giant creature, called a hive mind titan, that could think with the power of millions of minds, and if that happened, it would be unstoppable. Rendis said they could not win, and needed to retreat and get more ships. The princess said that by the time more ships arrived, the Titan would be finished and would destroy everything in this part of space. Everyone looked at Maya and asked if she thought they should. Maya studied the tactical screens and saw something strange, because the swarm was not attacking but was feeding on something at the center of the D. Nebulashi asked what was at the center, and the data looked wrong then. Princess's eyes went wide, and she said it was a dark matter well, and the swarm was draining it. To power the metamorphosis, the ship calculated how long until the Titan formed out in minutes. Maya said they had 17 minutes to stop it, and she had an idea, but the princess would think it was crazy. The princess smiled coldly and said then, "It must be a real human idea," and told Maya to speak. Maya explained that all the swarm ships were connected to the same dark matter well, and if they could overload the well, it would destroy the entire swarm fleet. Lorendis said that would also destroy everything nearby, including them, and they had no weapons strong enough anyway, Maya said. Frostfang could do it because he was living starfire, and if he channeled his power into the well, it would explode. The dragon made a sound like a dying star, and Maya felt his voice in her mind. He said the small human wanted him to become a bomb, and that was beautifully suicidal. Maya said not a bomb but a trigger, and Frostfang could survive because his energy form could handle things that would destroy solid matter. The dragon said the pain would be terrible, but he liked this human because she thought like prey that decided to bite back. Princess was quiet for a long time, and then said if they did this, the timing had to be perfect, and they would need to make the swarm chase them away from the well so Frostfang could reach the center. Maya said they would pretend to retreat in panic and lead the swarm into a trap. Lorendis said the swarm would tear them apart. The princess agreed and said 47% of all their people would die, and she asked Maya if she could accept those losses. Maya thought about New Harmony and the 17,000 who died and the billions who lived because of that sacrifice. She said yes. The princess nodded and said they would proceed, but Maya had one more job, which was to stay mentally linked to Frostfang during his attack because Dragonfire burned brightest when someone was watching, and Maya human mind would give him courage when the pain got too bad. Maya felt cold because that meant she would share his suffering. The princess said she wanted Maya to remind Frostfang why they were fighting and why the pain was worth it, because humans understood that better than elves who lived too long to remember what was worth dying. For Frostfang brought his huge head down to Maya level, and she saw universes in his eyes. He asked if she was ready to burn with him. Maya touched his scales, which were cold and hot at the same time. She said they would save the galaxy together. The dragon laughed like comets screaming. The starlight edge shook as swarm ships attacked, and Maya watched through the ship sensors as dark weapons tore at space itself. Princess commanded all ships to retreat and make it look like they were scared. It was not hard to look scared because the swarm was pouring toward them like a wave of living darkness. Maya felt Frostfang presence growing in her mind, and through his senses she could taste the dark matter well and feel how wrong it was. He told her to get ready because this was going to hurt. The tactical display showed hundreds of swarm ships breaking away to chase the retreating elf fleet. The princess said it was perfect and told Frostfang he had his chance. The dragon became pure light, and Maya felt everything through their connection as they shot through space faster than her body could have survived. They dodged between swarm ships, and the dragon pulled power from the space between atoms. The dark matter well appeared ahead, like a wound in reality where all light Deed Frostfang warned this would be the painful part, then he dove into the Weltha. Pain was not physical, but something worse like existence itself was being questioned, and Maya screamed without sound as dark matter tried to unmake. All she felt Frostfang enduring, and as Starfire fighting the void, he roared in her mind to remember why they burned she. Remembered Commander Kate Morrison, who stayed behind to save civilians, and Private Noah Chen, who sacrificed himself for his squad, and billions of names across hundreds of worlds. She remembered everyone who fought and died so life could continue. Frostfang felt her memories and his joy blazed. He said this was why, and his power erupted outward as Starfire met dark matter. In an impossible collision, the well began to break apart, and Maya felt the dragon agony as forces that could reshape galaxies tore at him back. On the starlight edge, the princess watched her display and saw casualties reaching 40%. Lyrandus said they could not take much more. The princess said 30 more seconds ships died, and the starlight edge was bleeding air from wounds. The princess said all ships prepare to jump, and Lyrandus protested that Frostfang would not survive if they left. Now the princess smiled and said to have faith, because dragons and humans who decided to be heroes did not die easily. She counted down and at the last second commanded all ships to jump. The dark matter well collapsed for one frozen moment. Maya experienced the universe unwinding as dark matter and Starfire destroyed each other. Swarm fleet caught at the center simply stopped existing, and their psychic death scream echoed across space at the center of the explosion. Frostfang became pure energy. Riding the shockwave, and Maya consciousness somehow stayed with him. He asked weakly if she was still there. She said yes. He said he needed her stubbornness to remember why surviving was worth the pain. She showed him through the mental link every human memory she had of first kisses and last goodbyes, and children laughing and parents sacrificing, and all the tiny moments that made life precious because it was so brief. Frostfang absorbed them like water in a desert, and his form began to stabilize. Said he understood now that humans burned bright because they knew darkness was coming, and immortals forgot what they were saving because they never believed they would lose it. They emerged from space, jumped 3 light hours away, and Frostfang appeared on his platform, and Maya collapsed, gasping as her mind returned to her body. Every nerve was on fire, and she should have been dead or insane, but she was laughing. Because they won, and because a crazy plan worked, and because she was alive. The princess was there helping Maya sit up with surprisingly gentle hands. She said Maya did well and asked about the swarm. Maya asked weakly what happened. The princess said the entire swarm fleet was annihilated in the dark matter explosion. Sterilized the whole nebula, and it would be decades before anything could go there safely. She said Maya just changed the war because the swarm biggest fleet was gone, and their ability to create Titans was set back years. Maya tried to stand and failed and asked how many they lost. The princess said 42% casualties, which was 18,000 dead or missing. She said it was acceptable losses for what they gained. Maya repeated the word acceptable. The princess knelt down and said, yes, acceptable, because those 18,000 saved billions and their deaths had meaning. Frostfang voice filled their minds and said the small human showed him why mortals fight so desperately, and maybe immortals needed to remember their own reasons, because this war was not about survival, but about making sure others had the chance to live. Maya looked at the dragon, still glowing with leftover starfire, and at the princess, whose cold mask seemed cracked. She asked what happened now. The princess stood and offered her hand and said now they would teach the galaxy what happened when humans and elves truly fought as one, and it was time to show the swarm that darkness did not have to win. Maya took her hand and stood up. The war was not over, but for the first time she believed they could win. 3 weeks after the Crimson Nebula, Maya Brooks had become famous, and she hated it. The military broadcast the battle everywhere and made her a hero, and recruitment numbers went up, and everyone gave speeches about humans and elves working together. Maya wanted to be sick every time she saw her face on the news. She sat alone watching stars and thought about the 18,000 names she had memorized because she read every report about every person who died. The princess appeared with Frostfang wrapped around her shoulders in his smaller form, about the size of a catchy. Said Maya was being too sad. Maya said she was being realistic because they won, but the cost was terrible. Princess said the cost was necessary and wallowing in guilt. Dishonored the dead because they were warriors who understood the risks, Maya asked if they really understood, or if they just trusted their leaders to make the right choice. Frostfang said gently that the princess knew the name of every person on those ships and carried them like scars. The princess said quietly that the swarm did not mourn or feel regret. And that was their advantage because they did feel and hurt and remember, and that pain made them fight harder. She showed Maya intelligence. Reports that said swarm activity had dropped 60% since the battle, and they were retreating for the first time in 5 years. Looked at the maps and saw sectors that were contested were now secure and evacuation orders for 3 colony worlds had been cancelled. She asked how many people lived on those colonies. The princess said about 40 million humans in Elvish. Asked if Maya thought 40 million would consider 18,000 too high a price for survival. Maya said she did not know, but she was the one who suggested the plan, so their deaths were on Hertha. Princess's voice got hard and said no, because their deaths were on the swarm who forced them to fight, and on the universe that created such horrors, but not on Maya. She used Maya's first name, which was surprising, and said Maya gave them a chance to die meaningfully fighting for something that mattered. Frostfang moved to Maya, and his scales were warm and comforting. He said he almost died and asked what Maya thought about when she called Dragonfire down on her position later during another battle. Maya said if it meant the princess and the squad survived, then yes, she was ready to die. Dragon said that was the difference between humans and the swarm. Because humans had the willingness to become less so, others could become more, and that was mathematically stupid, but also the most powerful force in the universe. Door opened, and Commander Lisa Martinez entered and said they were needed in the strategy room because they received a transmission from the swarm. Maya and the princess looked at each other surprised because the swarm never communicated. The strategy room was full of officers, and the transmission showed a human. It was Commander Peter Grant, whose ship went missing 3 months ago, but his body was transformed with swarm technology. Growing from his skull, and his eyes were like insect eyes. When he spoke, his voice was layered with thousands of others. He said they were the convergence and evolution and inevitable. He said the victory at Crimson Nebula was impressive and wasteful and costly. Said the swarm acknowledged the princess and Maya as worthy of penance. Lindis said the swarm never acknowledged anything, so they were evolving. Grant Corps said they offered a choice, which was to surrender Maya. Brooks and they would stop attacking human and elf colonies for 1 year because she was valuable in her brain. Patterns would be educational, he said. If they refused, the swarm would accelerate breeding and besiege every colony, and asked how many millions would die before they wished they took the offer. The transmission ended. Everyone looked at Mayashi, felt frozen, thinking that a year's ceasefire could save billions, and it would only cost Hertha. Princess said no flatly. One admiral said they should consider it. The princess said no again, and said they did not negotiate with the swarm or hand over their people. Admiral Mitchell said if there was even a chance to save lives. The princess said there was not a chance because the swarm did not understand honor, and this was a test to see if they would fracture under pressure. Frostfang said if they gave Maya, the swarm would smell weakness and attack. Anyway, Maya found her voice and said maybe she should be willing to sacrifice herself if it saved lives. Princess turned, and there was something like anger in her cold eyes. She said she would not let the swarm take Maya after everything they did together, and after Maya proved humans and elves could achieve the impossible. She said Maya was not a sacrifice but a weapon, and the swarm feared what they accomplished because its sentient races could fight with intelligence and courage in ways the swarm could never copy. She said she would not hand their greatest weapon to the enemy. Maya started to argue about the colonies. The princess interrupted and said the colonies would be defended, and if the swarm wanted a war, they would get one on their terms. She told the admirals to reinforce defenses and begin production of new weapons. She told Maya they would design a new strategy, and if the swarm would not gather in vulnerable groups, then they would force them to buy making targets too valuable to ignore. Maya understood and said bait. The princess smiled dangerously and said the best bait would be her and Maya, since the swarm identified them as high value Target's Admiral Mitchell looked alarmed and said the princess could not be serious. The princess said she was not suggesting but ordering. She told everyone that the swarm made an error in the transmission because they revealed they could think tactically now, which meant they could make mistakes. She said that swarm wanted Maya because she represented voluntary sacrifice and creative thinking and emotional bonds. She looked at Maya and said they would show the swarm exactly how dangerous those qualities were. Frostfang purred approval. Maya felt something change inside her because the guilt was still there, but beneath it was anger. The swarm tried to use her conscience as a weapon. They miscalculated. She asked what the princess had in mind. The princess smiled and said they were going to hunt the swarm aggressively and creatively and make them regret learning their names. As planning began, Maya caught Lisa's eye, and the commander nodded approval. War was about to get personal. 6 months later, the war had transformed into something unexpected, which was a campaign of terror against the swarm. Maya plan, refined by the princess, was elegant and brutal. They called it the Phoenix Gambit, and it worked by making the swarm pay so much for every bit of space that even their huge numbers became a problem. Small elite teams of humans and elves hit swarm facilities across 24 sectors, doing quick strikes with maximum damage, leading mini raids. Personally was Maya, and Princess Cylindris with Frostfang as orbital support. It was working, and the swarm was learning to fear Maya. Crouched in ruins of a swarm factory on a contested world, and her armor was scarred and her rifle almost empty, and she was sure at least 2 ribs were cracked. The princess looked fresh despite just killing dozens of swarm warriors with crystal blades. She said Maya was injured. Maya said she was functional and checked her display because their escape window was closing. The princess agreed they needed to move and asked Frostfang for status. The dragon said from orbit that he had 13 swarm ships trying to stop their shuttle, and he was teaching them about physics violently. Maya felt the dragon joy at combat through their bond. The princess was already moving faster than Maya could follow and told her to keep up. The extraction point was 300 meters away across open ground, being bombed in. Explosion rocked the ground and a swarm dreadnought crashed through the wall. It was 20 meters tall, and its eyes locked onto them. Maya brought her rifle up, knowing it was useless. The princess drew twin crystal blades and charged the monster and told Maya to cover the extraction point. Maya reached the point where Sergeant Ava Thompson's squad was fighting. Ava said charges were ready, but they needed the princess. Maya looked back at the princess, still fighting, and it was taking too long time. For another crazy idea, Maya called Frostfang and said she needed fire. At her coordinates, the dragon said she was 30 meters from an anti-orbital weapon, and if he fired, she would be caught in the blast. Maya said not if he timed it with the princess position, because she could survive it for a second. The dragon said humans and their insane plans were why they died young, but he started targeting. Maya screamed to the princess that dragon fire was coming in 10 seconds. Princess understood immediately and drove both blades into the dreadnought, then kicked off, landing beside Maya. Maya counted down. The sky opened and Frostfang breath weapons struck like a miniature sun. The explosion was apocalyptic, and Maya felt the heat through her armor and the shockwave through her. She landed hard with alarm, screaming, and saw the princess already standing, pulling Ava's squad toward the shuttle. Strong
12 hands grabbed Maya,
and the princess said they did not leave people behind anymore. The shuttle doors closed as Maya consciousness faded. She woke in medical 30. 6 hours later, with her ribs, Rapid Frostfang was nearby. Watching, he welcomed her back and said the factory was destroyed and the Phoenix Gambit was still working, but the swarm was adapting faster than expected. Maya tried to sit up and gasped and asked where the princess was. The dragon said briefing command, because the swarm responded to their guerrilla campaign by launching a massive attack on 3 major colony clusters. Maya asked if they could defend. The dragon said that was what the princess was figuring out. He asked Maya if she was prepared to die when she called Dragonfire. Maya thought and said yes if it meant the princess and squad survived. The dragon said that was the difference between humans and swarm, because humans would become less so others could become more, and it was stupid mathematically, but the most powerful force in the universe. The door opened and the princess entered, looking tired. She asked how Maya felt. Maya said like she got stepped on so successful. Mission the princess almost smiled and said she had been in council and the swarm counteroffensive was significant, attacking 3 places at once. Maya heart sank and asked if they had to choose. The princess said no, they would adapt because Maya taught her that sometimes the most effective strategy made no tactical sense. Maya understood they were not going to defend. The princess said they were going to attack because intelligence found the swarm primary neural hub that coordinated their entire species. It was deep in swarm territory, protected by more firepower than any sane planner would assault. That was why they would not expect it. Maya stared and said the princess wanted to decapitate the swarm. The princess said she wanted to end the war, and the Phoenix Gambit worked because they were unpredictable, and the ultimate unpredictable move was throwing everything at the swarm heart while they focused elsewhere. Maya said it was insane and they would need to leave colonies barely defended. The princess said yes, they would gamble everything on one strike. She said it was the most human strategy she ever conceived and she needed Maya help to convince. Command Maya looked at Frostfang, who radiated anticipation 6 months ago. The cold princess would never suggest this. Working with humans changed her, Maya asked when they briefed the admirals. Princess said in 3 hours because she wanted Maya conscious for it, since people responded better when Maya was in the room. 5 days later, the largest human elf fleet ever assembled prepared to jump. Maya stood on the bridge watching 200 warships. Assume formation. Command approved the plan by 1 vote, and only because Maya gave a speech about how humanity won by refusing to accept rational limitations. Now they had to prove she was right. Lorendis announced all ships ready. The princess stood at her position with Frostfang above and Maya beside her. They had become iconic. The princess asked Maya for analysis. Maya reviewed data showing the swarm neural hub in corrupted space with 15 million combat forms defending it. The odds were 17% success. She said they were ready. The princess opened a channel to the entire fleet. She told them they were going to end the war through one decisive strike. The swarm believed they were weak because they valued individual lives and believed empathy made them vulnerable. She said they were right, that empathy made them different because it made them willing to risk everything for each other. She said today they would show the swarm what happened when mercy transformed into wrath. She looked at Maya and asked for additions. Maya activated her come and said to the swarm if they were listening that they wanted her and could come get her at their front door. Frostfang laughed like stars being born. The princess commanded all ships to jump. The fleet vanished. The final battle began. The void touched sector was worse than reports suggested. By dark matter and swarm engineering, stars burned in impossible colors everywhere. The swarmly Rendis said 17 million was an underestimate because they were reading over 40 million combat forms. The neural hub was visible now, like a small moon pulsing with dark energy. It was beautiful, like a plague culture was beautiful. Maya said they wanted attention. The princess said they had it and issued orders. The fleet split into attack formations. She said they did not need to win the whole battle, but just survive long enough for Frostfang to destroy the hub. The dragon expanded to full glory and asked Maya if she was ready to burn one more time. Maya felt their bond snap into place deeper than before. She said one more time. The battle exploded. Human ships dove into swarm formations like missiles. Elf vessels used energy weapons to create kill zones. Frostfang flew through it all like a living star. Maya experienced everything through their bondly horrendous. Said they were losing ships too fast. The princess asked Frostfang. The dragon said he needed 3 more minutes to reach firing position, and the hub had defenses against dragon fire, so he would need to burn hotter than at Crimson Nebula. 3 minutes while ships died. Maya said quietly she had one more crazy idea. The princess looked at her with trust and exhaustion. Maya asked what if they gave the swarm a bigger threat than Frostfang. She pulled up the starlight edge. Reactor spec. She said if they overloaded the full drive in unstable space, the dimensional collapse would rival a dark matter well and destroy everything within 2 light minutes, including most of the swarm. Defense Fletzelencelandis said softly that included them. Maya confirmed it, but said it would give Frostfang his opening and the rest of the fleet could escape. The princess stared at her and said Maya was suggesting they sacrifice themselves and everyone Aboard, Maya said she was suggesting they do what humans do best, which was something stupid and impossibly. Frostfang voice was Thunder saying, "No, Maya," said gently it was not about survival anymore. But finishing this, the princess closed her eyes, and when she opened them, they were. She said she did not expect teaching humans about strategy would result in them teaching her about sacrifice. She ordered evacuation of non-essential personnel. She told all ships to pull back because the Starlight Edge would execute a terminal gambit in minutes. Lorendis protested. The princess said this was her ship, and her decision. She looked at Maya and said, and apparently her friend, terrible idea, Maya said, not a chance of leaving. Frostfang materialized, blazing with fury and sorrow, and said if his humans burned, he burned with them. Princess laughed, a sound like breaking ice that contained warmth. She said they all became too human. She began the overload sequence. Lorendis saluted with tears and ran for escape. Pods. The ship vibrated as the fold drive exceeded limits. The swarm fleet was converging but did not understand what was happening. The princess reported 2 minutes to Cascade. Maya felt Frostfang presence fill her mind completely, and through him she felt the princess too.